How many times have you heard someone say, "My boss is a bitch"? I know I've said it too many times to count. Why is it that despite all the incredible contributions women have made to the workplace and to the world at large, across industries, in the arts and science, education, government, and more, we still believe that it's acceptable to use this degrading label for each other? Well, I don't think a single straightforward answer to this question exists, but I do know this. If we don't start to talk openly about the perception of women as bitchy bosses who are difficult to work with, female talent and leadership will not evolve. We will continue to make strides in breaking the proverbial glass ceiling and will continue to take on the world in whatever we endeavor to do, but we will not develop a truly collaborative, mutually supportive environment in which to do so. Just because a woman gains power and responsibility in the workplace does not mean she has to either alienate her colleagues or be alienated by them.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Lynn Durham, and you're listening to Create Magic at Work. Create Magic at Work is on a mission to equip senior leaders with tools they need to be a true quantum leader and actually understand what that means. Improve employee engagement, retain top talent, and transform your workplace culture to have less drama and stress. So let's start making magic. And you just heard from our guest today, Marcy Moriconi, the author of My Boss is a Bitch. Let me tell you a little bit about Marcy. Marcy has held senior executive roles in global advertising agencies and companies in the US and Italy for over 3 decades, including Gap, Intel, Kellogg's, Kaiser Permanente, and Champion USA. Prior to becoming a leadership coach, Marcy built in-house creative and advertising departments. She's a hybrid of brand builder, strategist, creative director, author, and now she focuses on leadership. Today, her work is focused specifically on helping women become the leaders they want to be. Marcy helps women to build self-confidence, trust their gut, embrace healthy conflict, and build on their superpowers. Marcy believes that female leadership is complicated and managing relationships and teams can be challenging as a woman. She wrote her book, My Boss is a Bitch, Changing the Paradigm of Female Leadership, because she is passionate about how women treat each other at work. While we are having a lot of important conversations about women and career, we are not talking about women leading from a place of confidence and truly supporting one another at work. Marcy, welcome to Create Magic at Work, and thank you for reading that amazing first passage in your book to everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
I mean, we already kind of touched on it when I was sharing your bio with everyone, but what compelled you to write My Boss is a Bitch?
You know, it's something that I had in my head for about 10 years, and I would talk about it with the younger women on my teams. And we used to toss around this idea and we used to say to each other, "Oh, she's such a bitch. I can't believe I'm saying that." And then we would talk about why we were saying it. So one day I was at a huge female leadership conference in Las Vegas, and I turned to a woman who was on my team at the time and I just said, "I think it's time I need to write this book, My Boss is a Bitch, Changing the Paradigm of Female Leadership." It's always been a passion area for me, Amy. I've seen so many women be mean to each other at work and feel competitive or not promote someone for no good reason. And I just want to have a conversation about it. I also wrote the book because I have 2 adult daughters and I don't want them to experience what I have experienced in my career.
Yeah. So we've all, I bet, uttered those words at one point or another throughout our lives or our careers when we're frustrated, when something's going on, or even referring. I mean, I'm sure we've all heard it, is I guess what I'm saying. Calling it out and recognizing what are we saying here and why are we doing this, I think is really important to bring some awareness to that. And I think this book, My Boss is a Bitch, is super important for female leadership. I want to ask, because I want to get into your book a little bit and share with everyone listening, because I'm so into this topic. And you have different archetypes of leadership that you explore in your book. And then stay tuned because we'll share some tips with everyone surrounding empowering yourself in leadership. But this word bitch, I have always been intrigued by because I know that it's one of the 3 core wounds of the divine feminine. And the way that that is described is to demonize women who own their power, who speak directly, who set boundaries, and refuse to make themselves small. That's what the wound says. The wound says, if I speak up, I'll be called aggressive. If I lead, I'll be punished. And if I say no, I'll be rejected. And it shows up with women in a people-pleasing way to avoid being disliked, a fear of leadership or a fear of being in charge, and also in a way where we shut down our emotions to stay quote unquote professional or palatable for everybody else. And when we heal this bitch wound, we reclaim our righteous anger, our boundary setting, clarity, and our unapologetic leadership. So I feel like when you share the different archetypes in your book, that wound is sort of woven through some of the bad apples and maybe even the good eggs. So can you just share with some of us what are some of the archetypes that you talk about female leadership in the workplace? Give us an example of your, I don't know, I don't want to say your favorite bad apple, but you know what I mean?
Oh, I have a favorite bad apple. So there's so much, Amy, about what you just said that I want to talk about because something that you touched on that I think is really at the heart of so much of this is that we all want to be liked, and there's this people pleasing aspect that we are taught as women that we need to be liked. And I always used to say to my teams, and I say it now in my coaching practice, one of the things that I think worked for me as a leader is that I didn't care so much if people liked me. I wanted to be respected. When you want to be respected, you do have to embody some positive qualities that people hence like about you. But the end game is to be respected, right? Respected for your leadership skills, respected for how you think strategically, for how you show up at meetings, but not so much liked. And so, one of the things that I think all of the bad apples have in common is that these are all women who cared very deeply about being liked, and it got in their way. So before I started to write my book, there's a book called The Likability Trap, and I found it by accident and I read it, and it's a fabulous book. And it's all about women needing to be liked. And you hear women talk about, oh, at work, it's a popularity contest. I'm up for promotion, but I don't really know if I'm going to get it because I don't really know if people like me. And we could talk, for hours about this. And so that is a fundamental piece I think that women need to get in touch with if they are going to be authentic leaders. Yes, of course, I want my team to like me, but sometimes I might be delivering news or information that they're not so happy with, or I might have a style about me that they don't like. And so I think, it's important that we kind of get over that, get over ourselves and think bigger. You also talked about the fear of leadership, and I know that fear so well. And, whether it's a combination of someone feeling like they have imposter syndrome or how did I get here? It's not an accident when you get promoted. It's not an accident when someone looks to you and says, I want you to take on more. I think you're really good at XYZ. Like, it's not an accident. And so the women, going back to the bad apples, the women who were less secure with themselves, I think, they weren't really able to be positive leaders because they had too many voices in their head that were running around about what they should do, how they should act. And when I started my career in the 80s, we were wearing Hathaway shirts, which were men's shirts, button down shirts. And we were taught that when you go to work, you can't be too sexy, you can't be too pretty, you need to look professional, and you do need to take on some quote unquote male characteristics. How you speak, gravitas, how you show up, don't talk with your hands, don't be emotional, all those things. So it's really complicated. So I think, we as women, it's hard. Leadership for us is very complicated and it's not easy. But there are some really great tools that I talk about in my book that we can adopt to help us feel more secure and feel more secure as leaders.
I'm curious. Well, first, tell me your favorite bad apple after saying that. Tell us the story about a bad apple. But here, wait, before you tell us, I want to share with everyone this is so cool because the positive part about this, the whole point of this is shifting how we support each other as women overall. So, in telling the bad apple archetype, one of your favorites, one really cool thing that you do, Marcy, is you reflect on your learning moments from interacting with a leader like that and how it helped you grow, even though it was quote unquote a bad apple. So I just want to preface that this is all in the vein of us shifting this paradigm and supporting each other and calling out these dynamics that happen in the workplace. So, with that, I'll turn it over to you. Give us a bad apple story.
So I love all my bad apples, but Bridget, the head cheerleader, which is chapter 1, she's the one that I've gotten the most comments or feedback on. One reason is that it was a very large department. It was a very large company. She's a very well-known marketer. So I think, when the book came out, a lot of people kind of thought maybe they knew who she was and they had experienced working for her. And she is such a great example of a sadly deeply insecure woman who really felt like she needed to behave in a certain way to be a leader. And her values around leadership really incorporated this idea that you have to crack down on people. And she used to tell me all the time I was too nice to my team and I needed to be tougher and I needed to have my list of who was going to get laid off in the next round of layoffs. And I needed to go really hard on certain people. Every time we would have our one-on-one, she had her list of how so-and-so doing. I don't like how they're showing up. And she really pushed me to be someone that I didn't want to be. And I didn't do it because I couldn't do it. It wasn't me. And she was very much in tune with what was happening at the senior leadership level of the company. And her job was really to be the hatchet woman, if you will, for her boss. So she was someone who was dedicated to carrying out orders. And that's what she did. And so, there's countless stories about her and people that she fired and people that she was mean to and people that she liked and people that she didn't like. But when the People Pulse scores for the company came out one year and my scores were higher than hers, I knew that my head would be on the chopping block because my team, I had about 50 people that I managed at the time, they actually did like me and the scores were very positive, and that was hard for her to swallow. So having said that, after I wrote this chapter, which was definitely one of the hardest stories to tell in the book, I really wanted to let people know that I learned from this experience and what is it that I learned. And so one thing that's really important for everybody listening is that when you start a new job, listen to your gut. Do that gut check. How many times have we interviewed for a role where we really want it to be like the great job and we're so excited, we love the company, we like a lot of the people that we interviewed with, but there's something in our gut that is telling us that there's something off, but we shut it down and we don't listen to it. So it's really important to listen to your gut because I knew when I interviewed her that she was going to be tough. And I think that, you have to make a decision. If I want this job and I want it to work with her, what are her expectations? And do I want to do this? Or are there deal breakers in here for me that I don't want to do? It was very clear from the beginning what she wanted from me. And I probably could have done it, but I made the decision not to in every job I've had. I made the decision to do it my way, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So, always listen to your gut before you start a new job. And then the other thing is, just, really think about, do you want others to define who you are? Because under this leadership rule, we all were being defined. Our style was being handed to us. This is what I expect from you. And God forbid you walk with your hands, in a meeting and, show up and, you know, get out that heavy hand because that's what we do here. So I learned a lot from this role, and I also am really proud of the work that my team did under my leadership. So it wasn't all bad.
Thank you for sharing that one, and there's so many more stories in the book, and we'll go to a good egg in a second. I wanna comment, now that I'm older and a little more wiser, looking back on all of my leadership experiences and interacting with my other female colleagues that I cherish, there's just some sort of compassion that I feel on all sides for everyone involved. I've seen that archetype play out many times. The head, is it the head cheerleader? Is that what you called
Yes,
the that bad apple, the head cheerleader? Yeah. And for me, like, my compassion comes from, oh, they signed up for this patriarchal system that we work in, and they're the, oh, so and so goes into this territory and they're cutting heads and, laying people off, and she means business, and it gives some sort of reputation to the that patriarchal vibe leadership that, in some ways I'm kind of like, okay, well, we kind of signed up for this. We have an acknowledgement that we're like in this system, and if you want to make a paycheck for your family, I guess you sign up for it and you go do that. That's one path you can take. The other path is like, hey, like, you're in a leadership spot now. Let's try to shift this paradigm. Let's not do the same thing that someone else did before you, because clearly all these workplace topics and talks wouldn't even be going on if everything was healed and the workplace was incredible and there was no burnout and all of these things. So anyways, I just wanted to comment on that. I have so many questions for you, but I want to balance this, and I want to hear a good egg archetype from your book. Share that with the listeners, and then we'll dive into how can we actually shift this paradigm.
So I'm gonna talk about, Sam, I think I call her, but just one comment on what you just said before we jump into talking about Sam. Another female leader who I didn't write about in the book, but who was really wonderful, she reminded me once, we were talking about someone senior in the company, and I couldn't really understand why this woman was behaving the way that she was, and she said to me, Marcy, she's just protecting her investment." And those words have stayed with me for about 15 years ago. I think she said that to me. And I went, "Oh, wow. Oh, that's what this is about. This is about money." So that's something that we have to keep in mind because this is true. If you work for a company and you have stock options or you have stock or you've got a big bonus and you're supporting your family, as many women are the earners, and more power to us, you make choices. And so this woman was making some choices to make sure that she wasn't ruffling feathers with the CEO because she had a lot invested. And so I think just speaking the truth and saying what is okay. You can name it. You can name it, and then you get to decide, do I want to participate in this or not? So the woman Sam, who I worked for early on in my career, she was someone who was a truly confident woman in the calmest of ways. When she spoke in a room, it was silent. You could hear a pin drop. And I think looking back on it now, one of the reasons why she was the way that she was is that she had nothing to prove. She loved her work. She had an MBA from a top school. She loved managing people. She loved the business that we were in. And she was a really happy person, and she had nothing to prove. So when she came to work every day, she was very clear about what her role was. And her role was to clear the path for all of us so we could make great ads and so we could make great work. And that is what she cared about. In my opinion, she treated everyone the same. Didn't matter how old you were, male, female. If you needed her time, she was there for you. And she had courage. She had courage. I wanted to work in another office and she didn't know anyone there. And she just picked up the phone, found out who was making decisions over there, and she gave him a call. And I had a job a few weeks later. She was going to lose me. She didn't want me to go, but she wanted to help me realize my dreams. And it's because she was managing from a place of confidence and not fear. Now, what I don't talk about in the book is that she was overlooked for a promotion. A couple of the women in my book were overlooked for promotions. So what did this woman do? She left. She left the business. And we do see this a lot at a senior level. You know, they've got enough money put away that they're okay financially and they get tired of the stuff that's happening. It's like, oh, yet again, I didn't get promoted. I'm out of here. So in this case, this woman who had just an incredible impact on others, sadly left the business.
Hey everyone, Amy here. Let's talk about work realities for a second. Whether you're dealing with a tough boss, struggling with team miscommunication, feeling stuck in decision making, let's be real, work drama exists and it's exhausting. But it doesn't have to be this way. At Create Magic at Work, we help leaders like you cut through the chaos, build next level communication skills, and make better, faster decisions without the stress spiral. Whether you're leading a team or just trying to keep your sanity at work, we've got your back. We coach executives and teams like yours to develop interpersonal savvy, drive engagement, and bring your vision and purpose to life so work actually feels energizing again. Imagine that. More engagement, more productivity, less drama. Our executive coaching team has been in your shoes. We've led teams, navigated workplace challenges, and know what it takes to help you succeed and achieve your goals. Real experience, real talk, and real results. If you're thinking, yes, Amy, we need this at my work, then let's talk. Click the link in the show notes and let us help you and your teams become a high-performing, engaged, and productive force of clarity and calm. I'll see you in the Zoom room. Let's throw the stress and drama out the window. Click on the link in the show notes. It's almost like, I'm just speaking hypothetically, like the person says, I understand this system that I'm in, and I'm going to leave this system now and not be a part of it, which is a choice that a lot of us have made. And for those of us that are in the system, it's like, how can we help shift this paradigm? How can we help each other lead from confidence and support each other and actually call each other out when it comes to toxic behaviors? I mean, do you think that that is even a possibility for the future? Like, what are you sensing with that?
I mean, what I sense, Amy, is that the first thing we need to do is have the conversation and put it out there. Because as soon as we do that, people go, yeah. And then you become more aware of your behavior. So we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, and leadership is hard. But to be more aware of how you treat your team, how you review people for a promotion, being really clear about roles and responsibilities, being really clear when there's news to deliver or when you need work to be a certain way or you need to give some hard feedback, being really clear with people, I think helps people to understand that it's not personal and that you're really focused on the work and that you're supporting them. What is tricky, though, I think, is that many times when you're in a senior leadership position, you're also, I mean, you work for the company and you need to also defend whatever the company rule is, if you will. So I worked for a company that was owned and run by women. And I had already had my kids, but I learned at one early on, I was there, and there was a lot of women that were having babies, and they said, "We don't have any maternity leave." And I was like, "What do you mean we don't have maternity leave? This is a female-run company." And there was a group of women that needed to go and, make some noise and get it changed, and they did. But, in a situation like that, like, well, what do you do, right? We all work together, we're female, we like each other, we respect each other, but there's something here that needs to get addressed. How do you do that in a way, regardless of the topic? How do you do that in a way that people will hear you and they'll listen to you? And you won't be labeled, "Oh, she's so emotional, she's so dramatic," or "Here she goes again." How do we do that? What does that look like? So the first thing is we just have to start talking about it, Amy.
Yes, and if you are so inclined to move into the number 1 spot or find yourself in that number 1 spot in these hierarchical spaces, perhaps consider making different decisions, making things look different than the way they looked before. What would that look like? Dana Zohar, she's the author of The Quantum Leader. She says it's not about rearranging the furniture, it's about throwing all the furniture out and restarting. And what could that look like? There's another part in your book after you go through the different archetypes. Can you share with us the 5 key leadership qualities they don't teach in business school? You kind of deep dive into these 5 key leadership qualities. Can you just kind of share what those 5 are so everyone can run, not walk to get your book and then dive into what those are? And by the way, for all the Create Magic at Work listeners, I know we just wrapped the Magic Formula, which is a mini series where I'm fingers crossed one day Marcy will do a mini series on My Boss is a Bitch on Create Magic at Work. I'm putting that out there right now in the recording, Marcy, because I mean, this is so like, we could have so many episodes on this, right? So anyways, share with us your 5 key leadership qualities they don't teach you in business school.
Thanks, Amy. Yes. So it was really important to me when I wrote the book to have this section so we can talk about number 1, be your authentic self, which is probably the thing I'm most passionate about. And I think everything that we've been talking about today is really about how do we show up and be ourselves without fear. The second leadership principle is practicing calm. Sam, who I talked about, I think her calmness was her superpower. And I think, in addition to knowing that feeling calm, we feel happier, as people, it is really important as leaders to lead with calmness. The third thing is around confidence. Be confident. And this, of course, is something that there's 100 million books written on this. And when someone can uncover the secret sauce to confidence, please let me know. It's something that I certainly have always been challenged by and will be forever. So this is a short chapter, but it's also something I coach a lot around, which is be confident. And then number 4 is lead with ferocious love. And that I was toyed with putting it in, not putting it in. And the reason that ferocious love is in here is because as women, we are taught to kind of squish our, whether they're maternal instincts or just nurturing instincts or love instincts or friendly instincts. So at work, we're not really supposed to behave that way because we're supposed to be the boss. And I always loved my teams. People came to me and shared their personal things with me. And for me as a leader, that gave me a lot of happiness because they trusted me. So I think that leading with ferocious love also leads to trust. And when you have emotional trust in an organization and in a team, they do better work and they're happier. And then the last principle is embrace healthy conflict, which I actually do trainings on because conflict is really hard for women. We don't have enough time right now, maybe I think, to go into that, but we could do a talk on healthy conflict. And when people have differences of opinion, I think women were taught, we run away, shut down, we don't want to have arguments with people. We don't want to be seen as argumentative or bossy or
Or as a bitch.
a bitch, right? Yes. And so conflict is scary sometimes. Whereas men, what's that? Like, they don't even recognize it as conflict. It's just, we're just having a discussion. This is just the way I talk. Oh, I'm yelling? No, I'm not yelling. I'm just passionate. I'm just raising my voice because I'm really passionate about this. But it doesn't feel like conflict to them. So I think that what I call healthy conflict makes stronger work because people get together, they don't agree, they talk about something, and 99% of the time, it improves the work. It improves the outcome of whatever it is that you're working on. So those are the 5 key leadership qualities I don't think they teach. I could probably do another 10 that maybe they don't teach, but these are the ones that were top of mind for me when I wrote the book.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. And then you also have a toolkit. Give us a taste of what's in the toolkit for us if we deep dive into it.
Yeah, so the toolkit I was very keen on doing, and this is really what a lot of my coaching practice is now based on. And the toolkit has very specific exercises for anyone who wants to grow, male or female, in their life and with leadership. And it's a toolkit where I just really laid out things that had been issues for me in my career, that I want other people to have less pain around. That would be my goal. So in the toolkit, I talk about creating your strong personal brand, identifying your deal breakers, because we all have them, but we kind of try to not listen to them. I talk a lot about listening to your gut. I talk about your superpower, getting to know your superpower, and I have a little exercise around that I developed that I do a lot with people because I think we often are really, really good at something and we either don't believe that we are or we don't even know that we have that quality. And I didn't really understand my superpower until maybe 7 to 10 years ago when I had a boss. She looked at me one day and she goes, "You know, what you're really good at is," and then she explained it, and I thought, "Oh, I've been doing this my whole career. Oh god, I guess I really am good at making ads. Oh, wow. Oh, okay." I didn't believe it, and even when she told me, I didn't believe it. So I'm very into superpowers and figuring out what they are. And then, another thing I talk about is embracing your fears. We all have them. We have lots of them. We have all of those voices in our head. I talk about the power of should because we all have all these shoulds. And even now, like Amy, what should we be doing with the, this next phase of our career? What's the should? So it's things, lots of exercises that you can do on your own. And I love doing these exercises with people.
I really appreciate how you've called this out and kind of put it into one piece in a book form that we can access and get us thinking and more self-aware of the dynamics of what's going on in the workplace, and then we can really decide from this more self-aware space of who do I want to be in this moment as a leader? Who do I want to be? What's the legacy that I want to leave? As we mentioned before, I'm sure countless people, all of the listeners in the Create Magic at Work community, myself, you, have said or heard, "My boss is a bitch." And I'm going to read this from the back of your book. Women in the workplace have made tremendous strides in this millennium, but sadly, women versus women continues to compromise our professional relationships, our potential for career advancement, and our emotional well-being. It's time to redefine and realign female leadership with women's values and strengths. So, Marcy, if you could give us one final thought, if you could wave a magic wand and change one dynamic between women in the workplace overnight, what would it be?
Stop talking about other women in negative ways.
Mm. Yeah, you just hit us right between the eyes with that one. Yeah.
We all do it. We're all responsible for this. And the way that we judge ourselves because we're our worst critic, and then we judge others. The second thing I would say, if I may, is we need to be really clear about what the path to promotion is. So for women who want to move up in their careers or thrive in the job that they have, get as much clarity as we can for ourselves and for the people around us around what we need to do to move forward.
What can we say? What can you say to the men the leaders that are men that are listening to this episode? How can they be a part of this?
What a great question, Amy. I have had men read my book and say, "Well, this is true for us too," and really embrace it. I think that for men, just keep showing up and partnering with your female colleagues and building teams and listening to one another.
And don't call us a bitch if we're being assertive and leading. Just throwing that out there.
I grew out to be honest with you, in my career, I heard it a lot more from women than men.
Maybe it just wasn't said to your face. I'm just kidding.
Really my favorite thing, but, we all have our stories, and so this isn't a, pro men, pro women, anti women, anti men. That's not what this is. It's like, let's just have the conversation around how we treat one another and how we judge one another. So when a woman is up for a promotion, are we judging her personality? Are we judging what she looks like? Are we judging the way she speaks? Like, what is it? What is it when we say, "Oh, you know, she's just not ready," or "You just need more time in the saddle," or, "You're just not that strategic." Like, what does that mean? What are you really saying? And how are we judging each other, especially around career development?
So insightful. So good. Okay, so what's next for My Boss is a Bitch? And how can anyone connect with you if they want to learn more? By the way, for everyone listening, the link to the book will be in the show notes if you want to check it out. But yeah, Marcy, what's next for you and how can people connect with you?
Thank you, Amy. Well, what's next was more conversations and some work with Amy, who I respect so much what you're doing. So thank you, Amy, for creating magic at work. And what's next for me is I'm doing group coaching. I do coaching in corporate environments. I do one-on-one, and I am going to continue to expand my coaching business and maybe more work with Amy. That's what's coming.
Yay. Yeah, run, don't walk. Grab a copy, support Marcy. And this book will definitely bring some more self-awareness to the way we all treat each other and to give us some self-reflection on who we want to be in the spaces that we show up as leaders. So, Marcy, thank you so much for bringing this book to life and shining a light on this topic with your courage and your vulnerability to bring it into the world and say, yeah, we need to talk about this. So I appreciate you and I appreciate you sharing all of this with the Create Magic at Work community.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate you too. And for anyone listening, if you want to talk more or ask me any specific questions, please feel free to ping me on LinkedIn, Marcy Moriconi. Would love to hear from any and all of you. And thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Thanks for sending some magic to everyone today. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone and see you next time.